I got a dongle also. We're live. We're live.
Hi, Mom.
You look like a dad and you call mom.
Sure, man. I mean, like, I'm not that old that my parents. Okay, anyway. All right. So, given that this is a YouTube live interview, there's probably a bunch of people who have landed here by accident and some people who know what this is about.
Literally by accident, because I'm a doctor.
Okay. So, start by telling us, what do you do?
So once soon I figure that out, I will let you know. Right now, I'm doing everything that I can. So I'm basically an ENT surgeon. I'm a doctor, and when I get some free time, I do some stand-up comedy. And when I get some more free time, I invent some devices. And I get a little more free time, I write some books. And when I get a little more free time, I waste my time with you.
Okay. At least there's like some.
Hey, he's my childhood friend. Huh? Don't say I'm all rude to him and all of that. Okay.
No. I'm a very sophisticated interviewer, and we're going to be playing this quickly. Okay. All right. So there's at least, what do you say, 5 different things that you're doing.
Okay? Yeah. Also, most important, I'm married also. So I'm a full-time husband and full-time father.
So let's say this: you're an ENT surgeon. Mm-hmm. You are an inventor of medical devices.
Yeah.
Right. You are an author.
Yes.
Stand-up comedian. Father. Right. Husband.
Yeah.
Friend.
Yeah.
Most people can mainly do around 2 of these at any given point of time. How do you actually manage doing?
Also, I have good figure, so I'm father figure.
I can see that.
Hey, interviewer.
So tell us, how do you actually manage? Because so many of us want to do so much more, but we are not able to. So how do you?
Very straightforward answer. So the reason I'm able to manage everything is because I have full control on my schedule, and that's how I've designed it. So like I'm not an employee at any organization, and so my time is planned ahead of time, maybe a month or 2 in advance. I know. See, my surgeries and my ENT practice is not an emergency practice, so I have surgeries planned in months or 2 months in advance, and my clinical practice is 3 days a week. So I can schedule, what days I'm free to do comedy, what days I'm free to travel, what days I'm not, and if I travel, I manage my schedule accordingly. And most of these activities happen in pulses. Like I write a book in a couple of months. After that, you're not writing every day, right? Comedy also, you build a content in a few months, and then afterwards you're performing it as it's refining. And surgeries and clinical practice happen along the way. And then in the middle, take a vacation or club a comedy show with the family to do a lot of overlap multitask. But to answer your question, I have full control on my time and schedule. That's what gives me flexibility.
So you're pretty much watching like the next 2-3 months of your schedule and you're planning.
I would know my next 3 months.
Very interesting.
Date by date, yeah.
So you're an ENT surgeon. Mm-hmm. You're probably getting paid shitloads, right? So why would you want to do more than that? I mean, like, isn't that sufficient? You can do anything else you want with your time. Okay. But you chose to do all of this additional stuff.
See, I have been used to, as a child, to be involved in some sort of art form. Even since the age of 7, I've been doing theatre and plays, and that's where I've most actively been involved in. So, studying and then doing a play. Like we've all, while our studies, have been part of a cricket team or, gone for coaching or done a play or something like that. For me, that continued till my college, then that continued till my graduation, that continued till my post-graduation. What was happening is, over the last 3 or 4 years, not able to do theatre while doing ENT and entrepreneurship. And because, requires 3 months rehearsal schedules, 4 months rehearsal schedules. So moving to improv was the natural thing. Mm-hmm. And then that time comedy was picking up. So moving to a flexible format like comedy was what worked for me. And also because I am, as a person, used to having that element of my life. So it's more of a requirement for me because that amount of creativity is what I can remember till my father's memory, that I spent certain amount of time doing something on stage. Mm. So this is something that I'm just continuing it in whatever is the adaptive format that I found. Mm. If there was no comedy picking up, I would be an improv guy right now, doing improv plays, or I moved into some body theater. Whichever is a single person stuff, I would have started with.
Okay. All right. So the way I see it, people who are in different stages of their lives, I can see at least like 4 different stages. One is people who are working in a job and they are managing their personal life quite well. Mm-hmm. There's another lot that says, I want to do something with my life. Mm-hmm. So then in that phase, they're just complaining about, I want to do more. Right. Mm-hmm. And then there's a third group which actually start. And then when they start, they realize it's not as easy. I mean, like you might, for example, when you did your first stand-up set, you must have been like surprised by how hard it would have been to actually get your name out there and get an audience to like you.
True.
And finally, there's this fourth crowd who figured it out and now they're just scaling as much as they can, right? So I'm guessing most people would be interested in this third part, which is you've just gotten started, right? and how do you go about keeping yourself afloat, making sure that people know about you? So what tips or suggestions would you have for these people based on your experience?
Yeah, so I think when you're starting off, you need to ensure that you do as much as possible for two reasons. One is to also understand internally whether this is something you want to do in the long term or not. You might be very excited by seeing someone's quick fame or someone's lifestyle. You might feel that this is something I want to do, but is it really something that you want to do? So you can only know that if you do as much as possible. So when I started off doing comedy, I did as many shows as I could, and a lot of my initial shows were very pro bono, just to get experience. Do a free show for a conference or with your doctors or friends or colleagues. Try to do as much as possible. And if you start liking it and you think that that gels in your work schedule, then start doing that in a little more professional way and start branding and marketing yourself that way. So wherever you're putting out a post, make sure that you put out some posts about some of the shows that that you're doing. So if you're doing comedy, then talk about the comedy. Try to create kind of like a CV on your social media, because that is what shows your profile.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people might be uncomfortable with that. You think like you're showing off and you're saying I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But in the art world, that is your CV. There's no other way for you to show your resume. Like you would get a work job, you have something written in terms of degrees. But what do you tell a comedian? There's no degree for a good comedian.
Right.
It's only your videos, it's your response, it's your audience reaction. That's what's your CV. So you have to start building that early, so that at any point of your career, if someone wants to evaluate, do I want this comedian? They should be able to track back and see, acha, this is his journey, this is what he's done. So that's a very important tip, is about don't oversell and don't force sell, but try and have your social media profiles tell what you're doing, so that it gives a chance for people to do. Because second most important element or tip I would give is have a way for people to reach out to you. Now you might say, oh, this guy is great, but how do I reach out to him? Can't reach out to him. You don't get any more opportunities. There has to be an easy way to reach out. Now for me as a doctor, that's helped, because as a doctor, my phone number is available on a Google search. My email is available on a Google search. So the number of people who reach out to me asking me to do comedy is relatively much higher. And that's how I'm able to convert.
So what you're saying is, if somebody has seen your sets either on videos or has attended one of these conferences which you've done for free, if they ever do want to be able to reach out to you, there has to be a path to be able to get to you.
Yes.
So one way you said is videos, one is ensuring your phone number's out there. Yeah. Are there any other channels through which you encourage people to come forward?
Yeah, so all these social media platforms have direct message. Enable that.
Okay.
Like your Twitters, your Instagrams, and all of that, they have direct messages. Or make sure that people know where you regularly go, so they can meet you there.
Okay.
So sometimes if you're doing a show and you do a particular show regularly or at a particular venue, people will know, if I go for this, he'll most likely be there, so I can interact.
Okay.
So those basically the things. But if they have your email or they can reach out to you through any of your social media handles, that's enough.
Right. So tell us about your experience with this new platform you've heard called Gigsy. How did you get in touch with them? What happened there?
So what I liked about Gigsy is that it's an artist enabling platform. And as an actor myself and as a comedian, I didn't have any platform like that. That's kind of supporting you, giving you a place, getting you access to audience, and giving you a way to get some revenues, right? And I think Gigsy is doing that very well. And what I like about Gigsy is it's not limited to one domain. So you can get artists from all kinds of things. I see people managing artists, but who's supporting them and ensuring them that they sustain? That's what I liked about Gigsy, and that's why I'm happy to be one of the initial people supporting Gigsy, because I think a lot of comedians, actors, theatre people, musicians, and any kind of art form will get a good starting point. Like you talked about, how does one do it on their own? Not everyone may have the knack, but a platform can help a bunch of these artists starting off get that knack.
Okay. So Gigsy helps with identifying other places that you can go, in addition to like with merchandise sales and all of that?
No, they allow you to showcase your art. They allow people to value it by getting paid for it. And they allow giving you a platform where people can reach out to you. So like if you go to my profile on Gigsy, there's a way to see all my work. And a lot of what I'm doing on Gigsy is talking about behind the scenes. How do you do a lot, which nobody does. And I think Gigsy, I see a lot of other musicians and other people taking workshops, talking about how to do the art. That's the kind of support work that other people don't offer.
Okay. So you had this product out on Gigsy called Victoria's Secrets.
Yeah.
Tell us how that did.
See, Victoria's Secrets were basically the secrets, or what I would say is the learnings that I have had while doing comedy over the last now close to 2 years.
Mhm.
So everyone learns something, right? But nobody talks and shares about it because generally it's a competitive market, and you don't want to give out your secrets and let someone overtake you. But also, just the way I am, and coming from a strong medical background, if you look at doctors and medicine, we thoroughly believe in sharing what you learn. Like, you heard of case studies, case reports and stuff, because then you can get a lot of people give you feedback to that, and it also helps you understand clearly what you have learned. So I wrote a book called 1 Year of Stand-Up Comedy, and after that, when I got in touch with Gigsy, I was like, why don't we have this How I Do It series where we can break it down for someone who's just getting started on how you can write a joke, how you can promote yourself, how you can perform comedy, how you can grow, what are the key learnings. Because I wish I had something like that. And it's not like there isn't. There is a lot of this kind of stuff out there, but it's all international.
Mhm.
So it may not really apply. Our audience is very different culturally. And also where we are at in stand-up comedy is a very early part of the ecosystem. So having one or two people's case studies and all of that will be great. And some people do that. Like comedian Praveen Kumar has a few tips on how to do comedy. Abhish Matthew does a very interesting series called Journey of a Joke, where he calls comedians and tells them how they deconstructed and reconstructed the joke. So those are all things, and mine adds to that and gives another comedian's perspective of how I write a joke and how I take it forward. So people who are getting started will get a lot of reference, and sometimes that's important. It saves time.
Plus, I see that you mentioned the thing about it's also to be able to help with public speaking. So I remember, in fact, I think there's something that almost a lot of people can relate to, that it's very hard for you to go up on stage and talk to a bunch of people. I think I mentioned the number one reason, the number one thing that people are scared of is public speaking. So it's also very interesting that you have helped people figure out something that they're actually worried about, but while also teaching them about what it's like to be a stand-up comic. So in fact, a lot of people might not know this, but then you've also been doing theater in the past, and you've done theater around medical case studies and the things that people need to know about medical education, right? So tell us about how do you do that? I mean, like, is that part of the means in which you're trying to get more people involved?
Okay. No, I think the reason why I do a lot of this training is because I want to break some myths that some people have. And coming from a theater background, one of the biggest myths I want to break is people think public speaking is different and theater skills are different. People think that, okay, I need theater skills only if I'm going to act. I need theater skills only when I'm going to perform. But theater skills are required whenever you are talking to an audience. Now, whether you're giving a speech or whether you're just giving a talk to anyone, and it may have no element of acting to it, but there are the core basic principles of theater that help you deliver that effectively. And people do not look at theater in their public speaking thing, but the core basics are very similar. And because I feel not many people are aware of such a simple thing that can drastically change the way they can speak, that motivates me to keep doing this. So if you see a lot of my public speaking workshops, and we've done it for teachers also through Gigsy, a lot of teaching skills, when I brought out theater basics in them, they actually found that very sensible, and that probably will help them in the way they next time teach their class.
Tell us more about these workshops.
So these workshops are basically helped, to deconstruct like a set profile that's created. So you see, there is a speech monotony in politicians. There is speech monotony in teachers.
Monotony,
like it's created from your childhood. Like, if today I am going to talk like this, it's going to be, some sort of a politician giving a talk, right? Or if the teacher, today we are going to learn about photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is an automatic process. So, you've got that tone, and that tone has a reference, right? I try to break that. I believe that communication should be like you're communicating like this. And it's possible to do this on stage with some basic theater skills.
Okay. And Gigsy's done some workshops on this front.
So Gigsy is trying to, what I like about Gigsy is it's trying to get people support through training. Because everyone wants to be something, but how do you become is not there. And a lot of people know they want to be something, or some people don't know they can be something. These workshops help them explore that area for some time, and then they're plugged into a support system very early.
Okay. And what's the price for these workshops? I'm guessing that this is done predominantly with you coordinating the workshop?
Yeah, so basically when I do this workshop at the moment, like I said, when you start doing something, you do as many as you can. So a lot of these are promotional activities, and while we are also figuring out what's the best structure to do this. But Gigsy has been collaborating with colleges and teaching institutes at their own level to see if they can facilitate this, and then obviously formalize this as they go ahead.
So what you're saying is Gigsy talks to a bunch of education institutions, tells them that, hey, we know someone like Jagdish Chaturvedi who can come and help your students and faculty with
Yeah.
presentation skills and
Yeah.
being able to talk. And then they conduct these workshops.
Yeah, like
so
a half-day, day-long workshops. I think they also are doing this in the music area, or singing, or even in comedy.
okay, so all of this is trying to apply these artistic skills to things that would
Yeah.
apply in the daily life.
Yes.
Interesting. So how does one reach out to Gigsy for something like this?
www.gigsy.in.
Okay, all right. So tell us about how music is being used as an example. You mentioned how stand-up comedy, you run these workshops on presentations. What does music do? I mean, like, why should an artist come to Gigsy to be able to conduct workshops or sell merchandise?
See, I'm on Gigsy as a capacity of a comedian, so I don't know much about how music can help. But being a person who plays music myself, not at a very good level, but I think that music is just another way to express your emotions, right? And there's a lot of if you go to a singer who sings like this, "Aaj tujhe dekhenge," there's no emotion, even though it's a sad song, right? But if someone is singing it like this, like "Aaj tujhe," it's the same boring song, but you've got expression, you've got throw, you've got eye contact. The same basic theatre skills even apply to anything that has to do with an audience. Right? How you use your body, how you use your stage, how do you use your eye contact, how do you use your facial expressions, how do you modulate. It's the same basics on public speaking, same basics in comedy, same basics in music, anything which has an audience. So only when you don't have an audience and you're just sleeping, you don't need to emote that time. Unless somebody is watching you sleep. Now that's very weird, but that's it.
So it's mostly about audience engagement. How do you make sure that person or that doesn't just get up to go out?
Okay. No, they engage, or at least they connect with you. It's about connection.
All right, cool. So let's go back to your journey about being in medical devices and writing books and all that. Why? Let's go into each one of them. Why become an inventor of medical devices?
Again, so everywhere there has been this myth-breaking reason. So now, for example, what's a doctor's role? Is a doctor's role to just see a patient in a chamber or do a surgery? So if I contribute to a device that can enable certain healthcare and benefit larger number of patients, is that a role of a doctor or not? It's something that plays in most doctors' minds as they're growing. Because, when you start seeing patients and you start improving their lives or improving their health, you only want to do more. And it's very hard to scale individually. Because if I start seeing 100, 200 patients a day, every day, to make an impact on 1,000 patients a week, that's not a very effective way of doing it, because I'll burn out, I won't have a life of my own, and I may not be able to deliver quality care. But when you look at tools and technology that enables either better diagnosis or treatment or cure, and that can help a larger number of doctors, then suddenly you're able to do clinical impact on a much higher number of people. And that's what motivates me, that as a doctor's role, anywhere where improvement of health is involved, I need to be plugged in as a doctor. And that's why I started to look into innovations, rather than just staying as a doctor thinking that a doctor's job is not to make tools.
Okay, so imagine a ton of doctors are watching this and they're like, Jagdish Chaturvedi managed to create all these devices. I want to get started. What would be their way of beginning with this?
The beginning would be to first change the notion that Jagdish Chaturvedi made these devices. It is Jagdish Chaturvedi and his team that made these devices. And most of the times, the doctors don't have a team. And you need an engineer, you need a designer, you need a product specialist, you need a business person in your core team. And all of you have to work together in identifying the problem and taking it all the way, form a company. That's when it really realizes. Very interesting. I recently attended a talk given by a person who started this whole, cardiac catheterization technique, which everyone who has a heart block today undergoes his innovation. And he had something interesting to say. He's like, the reason why people think innovation is a single person's job is because of the way Thomas Edison, wrongly positioned himself as an individual innovator. And Thomas Edison actually had a huge team, but they never talk about it. When you think that, oh, you have to be like that one odd Thomas Edison to be having that capability to invent. But at that point of time, Thomas Edison was the main guy, and he positioned himself like that and never talked about his team. In fact, Leonardo da Vinci had a team.
So you made this a lot more harder, actually. Instead of saying that, okay, you know what, do the steps and then you can be a great inventor, you're saying find a team.
No, do the step means first step is find a team.
So where does somebody go to find such a team?
Yes, so I've developed a device for that because I know that it's not easy to do. So I've created
I've developed a device for that.
So I created an app called Hi, H-I-I-H, yeah.
Spell that once again because we also get the spelling right.
We wanted it to be HI, but we didn't get the domain. So we made it HII, we didn't get the domain. Then we made it HIII, we still didn't get the domain.
Okay.
So then we made it HIIIH.
HIIIH.
Yes.
3 I's and an
H. Trishul.
That must be very easy to find on the net.
Yes. But we created an acronym for it just so that it sounds genuine. So it's called Healthcare Innovation in Indian Healthcare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what it does is it helps connect doctors to engineers and designers. It's like a Tinder and LinkedIn kind of thing. So you can find, you can choose people around your vicinity based on the criteria you set.
Focus, guys, that's Tinder plus LinkedIn. It's not just Tinder. It's not there to find your future mate.
It is for company formation.
Okay.
It's called LinkedIn. That would be a better name. Or Linder.
You should probably look for it right now.
Hi.
All right. And what about stand-up comedy? If somebody wanted to get started with it, because there's a lot of people watching a stand-up comedian performing the act and they're like, I could do that. I could make people laugh.
Yeah. So I would say hit an open mic. So the Bangalore has a lot of open mics. So if you're starting comedy in Bangalore or Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, and Delhi, and maybe Kolkata to an extent, there are something called as open mics that happen probably almost daily. Bangalore has multiple open mics happening in the same day. An open mic is a place where for 3 to 5 minutes, a comedian tries a new set. Now it could be an established comedian trying a new material or a new comedian trying a first time. It gives you an audience of about 10-20 people who might be there, who have come with the mindset to listen to trials of comedy.
There are people who are coming there to watch trials of comedy.
Yeah, these are
Is somebody paying them?
No, usually these are done in cafes or done in bars. So you already have people sitting there, having a drink or drinking a coffee or something like that. And then there would be an added entertainment of people coming out and trying out their content. So it's win-win for you as well, right? You're having a good time and you get to listen to some jokes. Some might work, some might not. Comedian gets a chance to get exposed to some audience, might try some things may work, things may not. But typically when you've taken a joke to about 10 or 15 open mics and you started getting the hang of, oh, this works here, this doesn't work here and all of that, that's when you can start taking this to professional shows.
It's interesting. So you're saying that there's an audience there that's actually open to hearing people try out. Do they know that they're subject to experiments?
Yes, they're called open mics.
Okay.
And they're usually free.
Okay.
Because they are meant to be trials. And that's how the stand-up structure is internationally also. So open mics are meant to be places where people try out content.
So similar to how you have a workshop for public speaking, is there anything you have for stand-up comics who would like to come and figure out how to get their journey going? Yeah,
so in fact, I do a very detailed one-day workshop for stand-up comedians, more on how they can perform their comedy content. So what I've started seeing is a lot of people try their jokes in open mics, and if it doesn't work 4 or 5 times, they scrap the joke. But I've observed many times the jokes are good, but they were lacking the performance element.
Sure.
And just blaming the writing of the joke as the fault. So what I do is with a lot of theatre skills, I help them re-perform their same written sets in a more effective manner because they weren't using the right theatre skills.
So it's all in the delivery of things.
It's all in the delivery of things. That's how you were also born.
Sure. All right. So tell us something about the pricing. Do you set the pricing for this, or does Gigsy set pricing for these workshops that you're in?
So Gigsy basically sets the pricing, but it's kept in mind in terms of the affordability of who can afford it and how they can afford it, what's the value add and all of that.
And we're catering mostly to students?
We're basically catering to anyone who's interested in comedy. We've done workshops in Gigsy where there are people who are 55, 60 years old all the way and about 18, 19, 20 years old also. So comedy and humor is universal to any age group. And maybe this might even apply to do this in school sometimes at some point of time. Maybe any time after the age of 7 or 8. is a good time because kids do theatre at the age of 7. I started at a very early age. So you might as well get the sense of how do you deliver a punchline, how do you deliver a joke, how do you deceive the audience and get them back with something that surprises them and gets a laugh.
Interesting, that's also something a lot of people might not know, that when you were a child, ever since you've been a child, you have been cracking a lot of jokes. I mean, a lot of people know you to be a really funny kid. They've known you to be in theatre. You managed to hoodwink some of your friends into like performing plays and recording videos with you.
You're referring to yourself, right?
I mean,
see, if you had better theatre delivery, they would have understood it.
Okay, but I'm not trying to be as...
So come for the workshop.
Yes, so tell us more about this. I mean, this growing up stage, is there if somebody knows their friend or their nephew or someone, is there any signs they should watch out for about, this child is probably destined to do more? Let's say they're probably more likely to get in theatre or, to encourage them in that direction. What should these adults or friends look out for?
Two types of people. One are the very clear attention-seeking ones. You don't have to do anything; they'll find their way to the stage.
That is true.
But there are some others who have a knack for it, but something's stopping them back. Either it is about what do people think about them, or some stigma, or they're a little shy. Those are the ones who need a bit of nudging.
Mm-hmm.
So if incidentally you find out that there are some people who had a very good way to write something or deliver something, but you never thought that this person would do that because it's not the typical attention-seeking, standing out person. These are the ones, if they are pushed early into experiencing something like this, they might convert into very good artists. Otherwise, they just stay back to becoming Joel.
So why? Who's Joel that you're talking about? What? Who's this guy? So why is that? Why is it that when you put someone shy, they were like quite comfortable doing none of this, and suddenly they go on stage or whatever? You say that they are more likely to become that. What happens there?
No, so a lot of the things, some people are just overthinkers, and they look at somebody's bad experience and they think this is going to happen to me, or they just create a thing that I'm going to really do a bad job. People are going to make fun of me, or I'm going to be very bad at this, but they won't. And when they go on stage and they actually see a positive response, that's what changes that mindset. And that's what open mics do. Open mics, everyone who goes for the open mic is like, this is going to be horrible. It's not going to go well. And then suddenly they say people are laughing, some people are cheering, and then they're like, oh, so this actually is working. And then you start self-realizing that you had this in you. It just needs more refinement and a change in mindset.
Some of that actually sounds really good. Tell us about the first time someone heckled you.
I get heckled a lot, but I'm a very...
Even at open mics? Or?
Yeah. I don't attend too many open mics, to be very honest, because of my kind of schedule that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But see, the idea of open mics is to get stage time to test.
Mm-hmm.
And because I do a lot of corporate shows, I get on stage for at least 10 to 12 hours every month. So I can test a lot of content in between when I'm doing actual formal shows. But that's an adaptation because of my schedule and commitment. But otherwise, when you are whenever I performed, even in public shows, I get heckled quite a bit. But atypical from other comedians, I encourage that. Because I do a lot of crowd work. And when you have a heckler, they become a very good source of getting laughs because you have someone over there. And sometimes if someone's heckling, people would like their legs being pulled a bit, and have a little bit of jugalbandi. So I usually encourage that, but nothing that heckling has gone to a very bad level.
Do you remember a really fun time when you were heckled?
So this time I did a show in London, and there was this lady called Pallavi.
You went to London? When did this happen?
Yeah. Don't you tell the interviews on the interview?
Alright, cool. All right, yeah. Of course, the international star and all that.
Okay, so I did a show in London and Singapore and all of that.
Okay, all right. Cool, yeah. So I know about the Singapore gig.
Then Dubai and...
yeah, I know about the Dubai gig.
Yeah.
Right,
and where else did I go to? Australia. I went to Bangkok. There was different kind of stand-up in Bangkok, but yes, still it was comedy at the end of the day. What was your question?
My question was, what was the funnest time that you actually had an engagement with a heckler?
So this lady called Pallavi, she was pretty drunk and she came with a bunch of 5-6 girls, and then she was like, after everything I would say, she would like, wow, so this is complicated. And so
out loud in front of the
out loud, like she just thought that the other 100 people don't exist. She's the only one. She should have joined theatre early on, but she didn't. So that's why she's becoming this, and she's getting attention seeking.
Friends of Pallavi, now you know what to do.
Yeah. But other times where I've been surprised by heckling is I did a show at a medical conference once, and I was doing a show on Bangalore traffic, set on Bangalore traffic. And I was talking about how bad Bangalore traffic is. And one elderly gentleman got up and said, "How could you say something bad about Bangalore traffic? It is number traffic." Nammo Bengaluru traffic, and then I was like, okay, I bought him a drink. And gave Pallavi's number to him.
All right. So for those of you who want to get more tips on public speaking, Victoria's Secrets by Jagdish Chaturvedi on Gigsy.in. Book your copy now.
And for those who want to know how to have a better life, look at his life and do the opposite.
Bye-bye.